Have you ever felt this way? Your mind keeps looping the same old thought, like a broken record stuck in one spot even though you know it's not helping you at all. And the more you try to push it away, the louder it comes back. Why does that happen? Or maybe something small happens during your day, but your heart feels like it's carrying a mountain. You're exhausted not from the thing itself, but from trying to control what you can't. And then you wonder, how can I let go when I don't even know what I'm holding on to? And so, one day, you come across the Buddha's teachings on impermanence, on letting go, on non-attachment. You feel that they're true, but they seem so far away, so abstract. How do you actually apply them in real life? Today, I want to invite you into a gentle but profound journey. This isn't a lesson in theory. It's a conversation from the heart, about letting go, about acceptance, and about returning to the peace that's already within you. We'll begin with the most familiar things: your breath, your thoughts, your everyday emotions. And slowly, you'll start to feel lighter, clearer, and more connected to yourself than ever before. 1. Accepting impermanence is the key. Have you ever noticed the things we cherish most in life, relationship, a warm feeling, a moment of peace air, often the most fleeting? Someone you love dearly is no longer here. A joy that once made you smile every morning has faded into a distant memory. A season in life that felt like it would last forever quietly slipped away like sand through your fingers. It's not that life is unfair. It's that life, as the Buddha taught, is impermanent. Everything in this world changes whether we like it or not. People change, circumstances change. Our health, our emotions, even our perspectives on life, they all shift. And it's our resistance to that truth that creates suffering. Imagine holding on tightly to a flower, refusing to let it wilt. Isn't that going against nature? It's like clinging to an autumn leaf and wishing it would stay green forever. But leaves fall, that's their nature. And when we truly understand that, we can watch the leaf fall with gratitude, not regret. In my years of walking alongside elders, those who've lost a lifelong partner, left a beloved career, faced illness or separation, there's one thing I've seen again and again. Those who accept impermanence are the ones who carry the lightest hearts. Not because they don't feel pain, but because they no longer fight it. Not because they're free of sorrow, but because they've learned everything comes and goes, like waves on a lake, like the moon that waxes and wanes. Maybe today, you're facing something heavy, a change you weren't ready for. If so, take a deep breath and gently whisper to yourself, "This too shall pass." Acceptance isn't giving up. It's simply choosing not to resist what's already here. And once you do that, pain loses its power to scare you. It just becomes part of life, and you walk through it without losing yourself. We'll go deeper into letting go, into inner freedom, into living gently in a changing world. But first, let's quiet our minds and look closely at the first lesson. To accept impermanence not with the mind, but with peace in the heart. 2. Letting go is the journey of growing up. Have you ever held on to something, a sadness, a memory, or someone who's no longer there simply because you didn't know how to let it go? Even when you knew it was draining you, even when you knew they wouldn't come back, you just couldn't release it. To many, letting go sounds like giving up, like weakness, like losing something precious. But in the light of the Buddha's teachings, letting go isn't weakness, it's inner strength. Imagine someone clinging to a broken vase. It was once beautiful. It meant a lot. But now, it's shattered and they're bleeding from its sharp edges. Still, they won't let go. Only when they finally open their hands can healing begin. That's what letting go really is. Not losing, but giving yourself a chance to heal. The Buddha taught that on the path to awakening, we don't carry more, we carry less. Less anger, less attachment, less baggage. A woman once shared during a meditation retreat that she couldn't forgive her brother for something that happened over 20 years ago. She carried that anger through her entire adult life, and it exhausted her. But when she finally learned to let go, she realized something. Growing up doesn't mean getting tougher. It means becoming lighter. Letting go isn't easy. It takes insight, courage, and a whole lot of mindfulness. But every time we release something that no longer serves us, our hearts grow a little stronger. No one can do it for us. But anyone can start right now with one small thing. Maybe it's self-blame. Maybe it's someone who's no longer meant to walk beside us. Maybe it's a dream that didn't come true. Whatever it is, when we release it, we feel the weight lift. Like a kite no longer anchored by a heavy string, we risen not to escape, but because we've discovered freedom from within. This journey of letting go is really a journey home, to yourself, to a kind of growth that's quiet but unshakable. And we'll keep exploring that, together, one lesson, one mindful breath at a time. 3. Loving kindness meditation calms the restless mind. Have you ever had nights like this? When everything outside has gone quiet, the room is still, but inside, there's a storm of unspoken noise. Maybe it's something someone said long ago that still lingers. Maybe it's a wound that hasn't healed from someone you once trusted. You try to forget, but the more you try, the heavier it feels. There's a gentle practice in Buddhism that can soothe that heaviness. It's called loving kindness meditation, or metta. It's not about controlling the mind. It's not about reaching some mystical state. It's simply sending well wishes to others and to yourself. Picture this. You're sitting quietly, breathing gently in and out, and you begin repeating in your heart, "May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I live with ease and without suffering." Then, you bring someone you love into your mind. May you be peaceful. And then, you extend it even to someone who once hurt you. May you be peaceful too. It's strange. But when you do this consistently, day after day, something begins to shift. Not because everything has been fixed logically, but because your heart is no longer stuck in anger or resentment. In the Buddha's teachings, compassion isn't just a noble quality. It's a medicine for the mind. Because every bitter thought is like a drop of acid slowly corroding the heart. But every blessing we send out is a drop of cool water. And when your heart is filled with that cool water, there's no room for the fire to burn. There was an older Buddhist practitioner who once told me she could never forgive her sister over something small from their teenage years. But after months of practicing metta, she said, "I still remember what happened, but it doesn't hurt anymore." That's the healing power of loving kindness. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Compassion doesn't mean weakness. It means choosing to release what no longer feeds the heart, and instead to nurture it with love, quiet, steady, and strong. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait for anything on the outside to change. You just sit, take a deep breath, and begin with one simple wish. May I be peaceful. 4. Clinging is like holding a burning coal. Have you ever felt like you've been holding on to something for way too long? An old relationship, a memory that won't fade, a feeling that just won't settle. You know it hurts, but you don't know how to let go. It's almost as if you let it go, you'd be losing part of yourself. There's a powerful image in the Buddha's teachings. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. you're the one who gets burned first. That's not just a metaphor. It's a truth many of us are living with every day. Imagine this. You're holding a glowing red-hot coal. At first you think, just for a moment, then I'll let it go. But you hesitate. You grip tighter, and soon your hand begins to burn. But you keep holding on because you've held it this long, because it feels familiar, because you don't know any other way. That's what clinging feels like. Whether it's to a person, a dream, a promise, or even just a familiar emotion, clinging slowly wears you down. It weighs on your mind. It slows your steps. It drains your energy just to keep feeding something that no longer brings joy. A Buddhist woman once shared her pain after her daughter left the family. Every day, she lived with anger, guilt, and the same question playing over and over. Why? Not because she didn't love her daughter, but because that love had turned into clinging. And it was the clinging that caused her pain, not her daughter's actions. Buddhism doesn't teach us to be cold or to cut ties with life. Quite the opposite. The Buddha taught that true love is not attachment. When we love without clinging, we give others freedom, and we give ourselves peace. In my experience working with older practitioners, especially those dealing with loss, separation, or major life transitions, one truth keeps coming up. Pain doesn't last because of the event. It lasts because of the attachment to it. We don't suffer because someone left. We suffer because we believe they should have stayed. We don't suffer just from losing a job. We suffer from thinking, I'm worthless without it. All this suffering stems from one mistaken belief, that things should stay exactly as we want them to. But the Buddha reminded us, all conditioned things are impermanent. When we understand this not just in our minds, but through lived experience, attachment starts to dissolve, and something miraculous happens. We feel lighter, no longer weighed down by what we can't change, no longer gripping a coal that burns us day after day. We begin to open, to welcome new things, and most importantly, to live fully in the present moment with peace. So if there's something you've been holding on to, maybe it's time to set it down. Not because you don't care, but because you deserve to be at peace. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to continue living with a lighter heart and steadier steps. Because in the end, no one's forcing you to carry that pain. You have the right to release it and begin to heal. 5. Knowing what you can and can't control. Have you ever wondered why the more you try to fix something, the messier it gets? It's like the tighter you hold on, the more things slip through your fingers. The more you worry, the more exhausted you feel. And eventually, you're faced with a simple but powerful truth. Not everything is in your hands. In life, there are things we can control, like how we respond, how we care for our health, how we choose our thoughts each day. And there are many things we can't control, like the weather, illness, what others say or do, or when someone chooses to walk away, even when we're not ready. Wisdom doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from knowing the difference between what's within your control and what's not. Picture this. You're rowing a boat on a river. When the water is calm, you can steer with ease. But when the waves rise, if you fight the current, you'll wear yourself out and sink. But if you know when to row and when to release, you'll not only keep the boat afloat, you'll keep yourself afloat too. In an old teaching, the Buddha tells the story of an expert archer. He could hit a target from a great distance. One day, he aimed his bow at the surface of the river, expecting the arrow to fly straight. But the water kept moving, making his shot pointless. Shooting at water is meaningless, just like trying to control the uncontrollable. The Buddha said, "Wisdom isn't about blind effort. It's about knowing what to act on and what to let go." One woman once shared that she had carried guilt her whole life because she never felt like she made her parents proud, despite trying her best. For 60 years, she took on the emotional responsibility for someone else's happiness. It was only when she realized that another person's joy isn't hers to carry that she finally felt lighter. It wasn't because she stopped caring. It was because she learned to let go of what wasn't hers to control and to care deeply for what was. Letting go isn't giving up. It's a form of living wisdom, knowing when to act and when to stop, knowing that some doors only open when we stop forcing them, and that some of life's most beautiful things appear when we no longer insist on controlling how they unfold. In this ever-changing world, the person who knows when to let go stays peaceful the longest. 6. Meditation helps you live in the present. Have you ever had a quiet afternoon, but your mind felt anything but quiet? Your body's sitting still in the same familiar chair, in the same quiet room, but your thoughts, they're all over the place, thinking about what shouldn't have happened, worrying about things that might happen. Sound familiar? That restless feeling touches so many of us. And maybe that's why the Buddha always emphasized meditation, not as a religious ritual, but as a way to come back to this moment, the only place where life truly happens. Picture this. The mind is like a wild horse, always running into the past or charging toward the future. Meditation is like a soft rope knot to tie the horse down, but just to remind it gently, hey, we're right here. Many people only come to meditation in midlife, not because they finally have time, but because life has taught them. Peace doesn't come from chasing more things. It comes from learning to stop, to pause, to breathe, to notice that beneath all the noise, there's a quiet space inside, always waiting. Meditation doesn't ask you to reach some special state. It just invites you to sit down, breathe in, breathe out, and let your mind rest. That's how we slowly release the regrets of the past and stop fearing a future that hasn't even arrived yet. One longtime Buddhist once said to me, "I've lived 60 years, but when I meditate, it's the first time I feel like I'm truly living even 1 minute." That sounds simple, but it holds deep truth. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught, just being mindful of your breath on inhale, one exhale ice, already practicing awakening. You don't have to chase anything. You just have to come back and realize right here, right now is enough. Because peace doesn't come when the world gets quiet. It comes when your mind learns to sit still even as life keeps moving. If you've been looking for a place to rest, you don't have to go far. It's already within you. Right here, in your breath, is a little home called the present moment. And each time you sit down with mindfulness, you open the door back to that home. 7. Self-compassion is the first step to letting go. Have you ever tossed and turned at night? Not because someone hurt you, but because you still haven't forgiven yourself? Some pain doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within, a word you wish you hadn't said, a decision you regret, a moment you wish you had handled differently. And time passes, but the feeling of, "I should have known better," still lingers. Sometimes it's easier to forgive others than it is to forgive ourselves. Imagine this. A close friend comes to you, full of guilt over something they did in the past. They're restless, haunted by it, can't sleep. What would you say? Maybe you'd gently place a hand on their shoulder and say, "We all make mistakes. What matters is how we live from this point forward." It's such a kind, simple thing to say, but when it comes to ourselves, Why is that sentence so hard to speak? In the Buddhist teachings, metta-loving kindness isn't just for others. It begins with you. Because if you can't treat yourself with kindness and understanding, how can you truly extend that compassion to anyone else? One elderly Buddhist once shared that she had blamed herself for nearly 30 years over a decision that led to pain in her family. But after attending several mindfulness and metta retreats, she realized something. No one can walk far on the path of letting go if they're still carrying the weight of self-blame. Letting go doesn't begin with releasing someone else. It begins with embracing yourself like you'd comfort a child who just tripped and fell. Not to indulge, but to say gently, "I'm human," and humans grow by learning from their mistakes. Forgiving yourself doesn't mean avoiding responsibility. It means having the courage to learn and to move forward with an open heart. Because in the end, if you can't let go of yourself, who will? If you don't hold space for your own wounded heart, who will help it heal? And maybe, just maybe, the moment you say to yourself, "Even with my mistakes, I still deserve love," that's the moment a strange and beautiful lightness enters your heart. 8. The monkey mind and the loop of overthinking. Have you ever sat quietly by yourself, but your mind was anything but quiet? Your body's right therein, the same room, in the same chair, but your thoughts are jumping all over the place, replaying what someone said yesterday, worrying about what might happen tomorrow, suddenly flashing back to something from 10 years ago, just like a monkey swinging from branch to branch, never staying still. In Buddhism, the Buddha called this the monkey mind, a restless mind, stirred by what happened, what hasn't happened, and what may never happen. And the truth is, much of our mental exhaustion comes from this loop. Picture this. You're trying to read a book, but there's a monkey sitting on your shoulder. It keeps shaking your head, tugging your clothes, interrupting you again and again. How can you focus? How can you see clearly? That's exactly what the monkey mind does. It won't let you rest. It keeps you living in a cycle of what ifs. What if I had said something else? What if the worst happens? What if I'm not enough? And before long, even when you've done nothing wrong, you feel drained. But thankfully, the Buddha didn't just name the problem. He showed us the path out. Mindfulness. Mindfulness doesn't mean forcing your mind to be silent. It means noticing. Just recognizing, my mind is jumping from one thing to another. Just breathing in, knowing you're breathing in. Breathing out, knowing you're breathing out. In that moment, the mind stops dragging you around. One elderly Buddhist woman once told me, after a few months of practicing mindful meditation, she no longer felt spun around in her head all the time. She said, "Each time my mind starts to race, I take one deep breath and quietly whisper, 'Come back.' That's all. But it's enough to bring calm. Because honestly, the monkey mind isn't bad. It's just a natural part of your reacting to life. But without awareness and training, it'll carry you around for years, without ever letting you touch that deep stillness inside. And the moment you start to see clearly what your mind is doing, that's the moment you stop being its prisoner. You become its gentle companion. And bit by bit, you help it return home. Sometimes, all it takes is one mindful breath, and the journey back has already begun. 9. Accepting the impermanent nature of life. Have you ever had a moment like this? You're sitting quietly, watching a beautiful sunset, and for a brief second, you wish it could last forever. But just a few minutes later, that vibrant glow fades and disappears behind the mountains. And suddenly, you realize nothing lasts forever. That's life. Everything, our feelings, the people we love, Even the most beautiful moments eventually pass. The Buddha called this impermanence. It's a fundamental truth, but not always an easy one to accept. Imagine this: someone holding a flower tightly in their hand, trying to keep it from falling apart. But no matter how gently they hold it, the flower will still wither. And the tighter they grip it, the faster it gets crushed. And the more their own hand grows tired. We don't suffer because things change. We suffer because we don't want them to change. We love someone and wish they could stay the same forever. We succeed at something and hope it lasts. We feel joy and want to hold on to it so it never fades. But when those things naturally slip away, as they always resist, we struggle and we hurt. One elderly Buddhist woman once told me she couldn't accept her husband's passing for many years. Each day, she lived in the past, angry at fate, blaming life for being unfair. It wasn't until she learned about the nature of impermanence that she finally began to heal. She realized love doesn't mean holding on. It means fully appreciating something while it's still here. When we understand that life always changes, something softens in us. We stop trying to control everything. We stop clinging out of fear. And instead, we begin to live more deeply in each moment. We love more purely without attachment, without demand, because it's in impermanence that everything becomes precious. We treasure people more because we know we won't have them forever. We cherish laughter and sunrises and quiet mornings because we know they won't always be there. And thankfully, impermanence doesn't only apply to the good times. It means pain doesn't last forever either. Stormy days pass. Loneliness softens. So if today you're holding on to worry, sadness, or something you're not ready to let go of, try whispering to yourself, "This too shall pass." And in that moment, you've already taken the first step toward a lighter, more peaceful path. The path of acceptance. 10. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. Have you ever been misunderstood? When you decided to let go of a relationship, a dream, or an expectation that no longer fit, and someone said you were cold or uncaring? If so, you're not alone. It's a common misconception, but a deeply mistaken one. In the Buddha's teachings, letting go doesn't mean being indifferent. It's not about shutting down or becoming heartless. In fact, letting go is one of the highest forms of love. It's a kind of love that isn't tangled up in expectations, control, or pressure. It's love that comes from a free heart. Picture this. A butterfly lands in your hand. If you close your fingers too tightly, it dies. But if you keep your hand open, it might stay, or it might fly away. Letting go is like that. It's allowing someone or something you care about to be exactly as they are, not the version you wish they would be. There was a woman who once shared a deeply personal story during a meditation retreat. She loved her son deeply, but he chose a very different path in life, one she couldn't understand. For years, she tried to change him, tried to fix him with what she thought was best. And in the process, they both suffered. Their relationship broke down. Only when she realized that true love doesn't always mean trying to control someone did healing begin. She said something so touching: "You don't have to be the son you once were. You just need to be yourself, and I'll still be here." In the scriptures, the Buddha didn't say an enlightened person stops loving. He said they learn to love without attachment. And because of that, their love becomes pure. It doesn't hurt others, and it doesn't hurt themselves. When we love with strings attached, when they act this way, I'll love them. When they never change, I'll stay. That's not love anymore. That's control. And control always leads to suffering on both sides. But letting go, in its deepest sense, is a quiet blessing. You are free, and so am I, because real love doesn't confine. Real love says, we can both be fully ourselves and still stay close in the heart. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most sacred kind of love we can offer. 11. The human mind is always full of thoughts. Have you ever felt like you've been carrying an invisible backpack all day long? No one else can see it, but you know how heavy it is. Inside are unnamed worries, unfinished thoughts, little things that play on repeat in your head like a broken recording. That's the human mind constantly filled with thoughts. And the truth is, most of them aren't even necessary. One small event in the morning can become a full-day spiral. One unfinished sentence from someone can keep you up all night. Imagine this. Every time an anxious thought appears, you put a stone into that backpack. At first, it's just one or two. Then you start thinking about money, family, the past, the future, and soon the load gets heavier and heavier. You keep walking, you keep working, you even smile. But inside, you're exhausted. The Buddha once said, "No enemy can harm us as much as an untrained mind. Thoughts, if left unexamined, can drag us in every direction and pull us away from ourselves." But here's the beautiful thing. You don't need to take out all the stones at once. All it takes is awareness. Just noticing what you're carrying is already the beginning of letting go. When you sit down, take a deep breath and watch your thoughts like clouds drifting by. You start to see thoughts come and go, and you don't need to hold on to every one of them. And maybe, just maybe, that's the first moment all day that your backpack feels a little lighter. 12. Learning to be content, the first step toward letting go. Have you ever felt like you're living life on a treadmill that never stops? Task after task, dream after dream, one goal reached and immediately another appears. And still, there's this nagging feeling, it's not enough. In the Buddha's teachings, there's a simple yet profound word, knowing contentment. Being content doesn't mean giving up. It's not laziness or a lack of ambition. It means knowing what is enough for your heart to be at peace. Imagine this, a glass already full of water. If you keep pouring, the water spills, wasting what's added and making a mess everywhere. Life is like that too. When desire goes beyond what's necessary, we're the ones who clean up the mess through stress, exhaustion, and the loss of life's simplest, most beautiful things. One elder once shared after a spring meditation retreat. He had worked as a manager, owned a home, raised successful children, but still, there was this emptiness. He kept thinking he had to do more to feel complete. Until one day during meditation, he asked himself, if today were my last day, would I really need anything else to feel content? And in that silence, the answer became clear. Everything was already enough. It was just the mind that hadn't stopped chasing. The Buddha taught, the one who knows enough is the richest of all. Because when we know what's enough, envy fades, anger softens, and our steps grow lighter. Knowing contentment is the beginning of letting go, because only when we stop craving endlessly can we say no to what we no longer need. The world will keep telling you, have more, do better. But in the midst of that noise, you can choose a different path. To sit still, look inward, and quietly smile. I have enough. And in that moment, you may find a kind of wealth that no amount of money can buy, a deep freedom inside your heart. 13. Letting go is a way back to yourself. Have you ever felt this way? After years of carrying responsibilities, striving, holding things together one day, you just feel tired. Not because something was lost, but because somewhere along the way, you forgot who you were beneath all the roles, expectations, and obligations. An elderly Buddhist practitioner once said to me, "I spent most of my life doing what was right for others and forgot what was right for my own heart." It sounds so simple, but behind those words was a lifetime spent trapped in duty, doing what she should without ever pausing to ask, "Who am I without all the shoulds?" Letting go in the light of the Buddha's teachings is not about losing. It's about returning. Returning to your true self, pure, honest, not defined by your past, your mistakes, or what others think of you. Picture this: someone wearing layer upon layer of heavy winter coats. At first, the coats were there for warmth. But the season has changed. The sun is out. And yet they've forgotten how to take the coats off. Now, those layers don't protect, they weigh them down. It's the same in life. There are things we once needed: a relationship, a title, a way of living. But if we never learn to set them down when their time has passed, they become the very things that hold us back from growing, from softening, from being real. The Buddha said, "The true self is not something to create, it's something to discover. And to discover it, we must first be willing to let go. Let go of old beliefs, unnecessary cravings, even the idea of who we think we must always be." Letting go doesn't mean releasing something huge all at once. Sometimes it's just setting down one small thing each day. A comparison, a harsh word toward yourself, an expectation that never came true. Slowly, you start seeing yourself more clearly. Not through the fog of your past, not through someone else's mirror, but in the light of mindfulness. And in that moment you realize, letting go doesn't make you empty. It creates space for you to come home, to be fully yourself, free, at peace. 14. You are not your thoughts. Have you ever had one of those days? Where a single passing thought brings your whole mood down. Just one quiet whisper. "I'm not good enough. Everyone must be judging me. This life is just too heavy." And suddenly, you believe it's true. But have you ever stopped to ask, is this really me? Or is it just a passing cloud in the sky of my mind? In the Buddha's teachings, there's a profound insight worth reflecting on. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts are mental events. They arise and they pass. They are not the essence of who you are, but so many of us go through life identifying with them. We believe we are our fear, our anger, our self-criticism. Picture this. You're in a quiet room. You're the owner of the space. And each thought is like a visitor knocking at the door. Some are calm, some loud, some bring comfort, some stir confusion. If you greet them, let them sit a while and gently see them out. The room stays yours. But if you forget you're the host and let those guests run wild, you're the one who suffers. At a retreat, one woman shared how she had lived for years under the weight of negative thoughts. "I'm not good enough. People will leave me." Until one day, during meditation, she realized, "I have these thoughts, but I am not them." That moment was like a beam of light cutting through the clouds. She began practicing watching her thoughts like watching a river, not jumping in, not getting swept away, just noticing and gently smiling. And when we stop identifying with our thoughts, we gain freedom. Freedom from self-judgment. Freedom from the old inner tapes playing over and over. Freedom to choose how we respond. instead of reacting out of habit. The Buddha didn't teach us to control every thought. He taught us to be aware of them and let them go gently. Because in the end, thoughts are visitors. You are the one holding the key to the door of your mind. 15. Letting go to truly live. Have you ever held on to something, a person, a memory, an emotion so tightly that you ended up feeling completely drained? It's like gripping a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. But if you simply open your hand, the sand rests there peacefully. Letting go may sound like losing something, but in truth, it's how we honor what matters be, holding it with an open heart. There's a story I'll never forget from my work with an elderly Buddhist practitioner. She was in her 70s, surrounded by children and grandchildren, yet she felt deeply lonely. Why? Because she was trying to hold on to her family, her way wanting them to always listen, stay close, and live according to what she believed was right. But the more she clung, the more distant they became. She felt abandoned, hurt, alone. It wasn't until she began learning about letting go that she said something that moved us all to silence. When I let go of expectations, I finally saw the beauty in my children. Not because they did what I wanted, but because I truly started to see them. In the Buddha's teachings, there's a simple, profound truth. What comes, let it come. What goes, let it go. Not because we don't care, but because we understand life flows. And only when we stop trying to control every moment can we actually live it fully. Imagine this. Someone sits in a blooming garden but spends the whole time worrying that the flowers might wilt tomorrow. So, they don't pause to admire the colors, inhale the fragrance, or smile. They live in fear of losing and miss the beauty that's right in front of them. Letting go doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you begin to love without attachment, trusting that what is meant for you, if it's truly aligned, will remain even without your grip. To live fully is to cherish everything deeply without needing to possess it forever. And it's only then that your heart becomes light. And life, maybe for the first time, feels truly beautiful. 16. Living in the present to ease anxiety. Have you ever sat in a quiet afternoon while your mind just wouldn't stop racing? Thinking about the past, what shouldn't have happened. Worrying about tomorrow, what if things don't go well? And then you realize you haven't really been in the present moment at all. The Buddha once said something deeply wise. The past is gone. The future has not yet come. Only the present moment is real life. It sounds simple, but living that way, it's an art. One that takes practice, awareness, and deep compassion for ourselves. Imagine this. You're walking through a garden full of flowers, but instead of looking around, you keep checking your watch, thinking about a call you haven't made, worrying about something you said yesterday. The flowers are blooming. The sky is clear, but you're not really there. And when you return home, maybe you feel a quiet regret. Why didn't I let myself enjoy that moment more? One older practitioner once shared with me that he spent years stuck in regret about what he didn't do when he was younger. And at the same time, he was always worried about the future, his health, his children, aging. It wasn't until he began practicing mindful meditation that he started to experience real peace. He said, "I never imagined that simply sitting still and feeling my breath could make me realize I'm still alive." Living in the present doesn't mean ignoring the past or pretending the future doesn't exist. It just means coming back to this moment with full presence. Drinking tea? Just drink tea. Listening to someone? Just listen. No judgment, no rush. No need to make the moment meaningful. And here's the miracle. When you truly live in the now, anxiety begins to melt like morning mist. Because worry only exists when our mind runs to things that haven't happened or things we can't change. But here where you're breathing, sitting, feeling, there's nothing to chase, nothing to fix. And maybe peace is simply learning to be fully here, one breath at a time. When we realize that thoughts are not who we are, when we learn that letting go isn't losing, but coming home to ourselves, when we discover how to be content, to pause, and to live each moment fully, then we begin walking the path of true awakening, lightly, gently, day by day. Maybe happiness has never been far at all. It's not in something big. It's not waiting in some future moment. It's right here, in a calm breath, in a quiet release, in one simple afternoon where you're free to be yourself. And if just one thing from this video touched something in your heart today, please take a moment to share that spark. Hit subscribe to Buddhism Seeds, like this video, share it with someone who may need it, and leave a comment below about what made you pause, reflect, or feel something real. Because maybe what you just learned is exactly what someone else out there has been waiting to hear. Thank you for being here with your whole heart. And I'll see you in the next video, where we'll keep learning how to live with lightness and depth, one moment at a time.